You're listening to Stories from the Field by the Institute for Education Innovation, hosted by me, Doug Roberts. Welcome back to Stories from the Field, the superintendent podcast, and I'm here with new friend Matthew Wienclawski. He is the superintendent of Pathways in Education here in Chicago. Thanks for being here, Matthew.
Thank you, Doug. It's my first time at IEI. Very excited.
Glad to have you. Yeah. So you've got a sort of different superintendency than most. Can you tell us a little bit about Pathways in Education, what you guys do, what your role is? Just help us understand.
Yeah, of course. So we are an alternative learning model. We support students that are over age and under credit. And we really look at those between 16 to 22 years of age, helping them get their high school diplomas. A lot of times regular zoning high schools just didn't work out for a myriad of reasons, but we support those students that may have primary caregiver responsibilities. They need to hold down a job, contribute to the family. There's a lot of things, mostly just not being a fan of periods 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then as the bell rings, got to go and do what you need to do and sit in a classroom of 30 or 40. I think as we transition into a new wave of education, hopefully this is something that lots of other counties and districts look at.
So alternative hours, you could take longer than 4 years.
Yes.
Right.
So we typically like to drill down our senior class to only 1 year when you're in a senior situation.
Yeah.
But we don't like to hold on to students for 6, 7 years because at that point, we're doing more of a disservice and they will age out. But our programming is very flexible. So they only have requirements Monday through Friday for 4 hours each day. And during that time, they have particular checkpoints with teachers and one of our modalities. We offer 3 different modalities, one being an independent primary instructor, works with you in a very one-to-one capacity. In addition to that, we have a small group instruction. We refer to that as SGI. And that's really traditional classroom instruction, 15 to 1. And then we do have an online platform that's aligned to state standards that's at Mentum.
And you are not a Chicago Public Schools school, but you partner with CPS. How does that work?
That's correct. It's very complicated. Let's just say that. It's very complex. We are a contract, so we're bound by a lot of the same metrics that the district has for their regular zoning high schools. In addition, though, we are a little bit autonomous in the way that we're able to do things, not in the sense of having a charter, but in the how, I suppose, right? The what's there and then the how we execute is up to us in many ways. So, for example, we can kind of stay with the school calendar that the district has, but we can modify it a bit to meet our needs.
Okay. Mm-hmm. But like everyone has the same spring break.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so do you have to go answer an RFP to win this business?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we actually went through that process last year. And right now, the board in Chicago, while it's just transitioning into a new phase 2, there's a whole new board concept in Chicago with appointed and elected members. And that's then going to take shape going into the next school year. Yeah. And that will determine the new process, the new RFP process going into the next school year. But we're on a 1 to 2 year contract right now.
Got it. And you've got 4 campuses in Chicago and also elsewhere?
Yeah, that's correct. So we operate in Idaho, we operate in Arizona, and we operate in Louisiana right now.
And how are those schools set up?
Those schools are very different according to the state legislation. And all 3 of those are charters, and we're the only contract. We have 4 schools throughout Chicago. So we are in the Avondale Far North neighborhood. We're in the Humboldt Park neighborhood, Brighton Park, and we're in the Ashburn neighborhoods. So we really do go all through top north to south. And ironically enough, we're all on the same street. Didn't plan it that way. We're all on Kenzie Ave.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Really just interesting fun fact.
Yeah. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So in your role as superintendent, are you doing all the business stuff of running the nonprofit and running the schools?
To a degree. Yeah. I have my hands mostly in the field and on the school operations and the partnership aspect with the network that oversees. Yes, we do have a home office management group, PMG, Pathways Management Group, and they support a lot of the business end work, but I also work with them very closely when it comes to contract time.
Got it. But you're also the person of record running the program.
That's correct.
Right. Okay. So the principals report to you.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Very cool. And I'm just curious, is Pathways trying to expand to new places?
Oh, absolutely.
That PMG group, are they out there trying to?
Actively, yes, in different states. And I'll be honest, in Chicago, in many ways, I think there's a new dawn of reckoning coming with the new board. And, the climate's always changing. Right. But our program speaks for itself. the staff that we have and the students that we support and the families that are involved, we have a wait list at all 4 of our campuses currently.
Well, that speaks volumes.
Yeah. And that's been ongoing for the last year and a half. And that's just been a tremendous culture shift in how we operate for our stakeholders.
Yeah. So we're seeing a lot of our superintendents are challenging their districts to think differently particularly about secondary education, and giving kids experiences that are not necessarily confined to the 4 walls of a traditional classroom. A big push on career tech ed, school to work, school to career, internships, externships. To some extent, it's almost like you all have been doing alternative education for a while, and districts are starting to kind of get into that space. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people are looking at us now as a possible model, knowing that, okay, how could we as a regular high school still implement maybe a young adult component that is then speaking to the students that are over 18 years of age and they just need something different. A lot of our students are, they're given the opportunity, obviously, to go to a 2- and 4-year university. It just so happens that a lot of our students take on more hands-on training, skills, trades, and we're big proponents of that avenue.
And are they also having to be more kind of self-directed in their?
Yes, right. Absolutely.
You don't just go, like you just said, you don't go to periods 1 through whatever. You got to show up and right.
Yeah, there's a lot of hands-on support in the very beginning, very clear expectations, understanding what our culture is and how we can be an entity of support.
Yeah.
Very holistic and robust in the way that from mental health supports, any kind of active resources for even alumni, and then current students. I mean, we always advocate for our students to be here because this is the best place for you to get access to those opportunities and resources that you wouldn't have anywhere else.
How do students find their way to you? How does that process go?
A lot of referrals, lots of
school.
A lot of regular zoning high school referrals from counselors or deans of students, whatever the position of transfer, right?
Right.
But a lot of referrals coming through word of mouth, even from students and parents now, because our program has grown in such a way that, wow, this school really helped my child who was maybe struggling at this school or that school for whatever reason, and they found something of connection at our place. And that really is, I think, the difference maker for us, because a lot of times we have to make sure our staff is aware that we can't produce the same thing that they just experienced the last 1 or 2 school visits. We have to produce something completely different. And because of that, it encourages us to think outside the box and take risks. And sometimes we miss the target, but a lot of times we're within the dartboard, let's just say,
And so when they transfer in, the funding follows them, right?
That's correct. Yes. So and it's predicated on enrollment and attendance model.
Yeah. Okay. Like regular public school.
Correct.
Yeah. Good for you. It's almost a more kind of entrepreneurial model, if you will. You have to kind of, like, each kid has to kind of drive their own experience. And
that's absolutely right. And that's one of the mantras that we push. Your education is truly in your hands. Now, I know a lot of schools that I've experienced earlier in my career, we've messaged that completely. Oh yeah, you take education in your own hands. We're speaking to the whole child. A lot of times that just doesn't meet the expectation truly. And in our case, we're able to really show them with tangible evidence right off the bat. As soon as you walk in the building, hey, here's your student success plan. Here's your grad calculator. This is how much work you're going to have to do based on this month to graduate at this date. And it changes and fluctuates based on the output that you provide.
Right. Yeah.
And this, just seeing that a lot of times can be very motivating. And we've built in a lot of success metrics along the way to intentionally give small wins at quarterly marks, at semester marks, to ensure that students are continuing to stay motivated.
Right. Yeah. And I assume you're here because you have the same leadership development challenges and needs and goals.
That's correct.
As the sort of more typical school leaders. So I would love to talk to you about just sort of, what mentorship has looked like for you. Can you think of a time or an anecdote when you received mentorship that was impactful in your career?
Absolutely. It was early on in my career. And I would say it was during my time as a principal in the Oakland Unified School District, and mentor at the time, executive director for our charter, really just broke it down to me and in terms of purpose, and mentioned an old Chinese proverb that always just resonated deeply with me, that, one generation plants the trees, another gets the shade. And that's something that I try to apply daily into, not just for my own personal sense of purpose, but to share with others, and understanding that what we do now, you may not see the result tomorrow or the next day, but it will just take a little bit of time. But we can monitor that progress. We can water it and watch it grow along the way.
Right.
And how we nurture it and support it speaks volumes into that final product, you know. And when we look at kids with that just raw potential, even though they may have experienced this, and this along the way, and we have a lot of students that come in with many hardships, right? Yeah. Real traumas and tragedies in their lives. Yeah. We have to give them a clean slate, you know, because they deserve it. You know, we give them that second, third chance. And we find that they're really responsive to that because it's just a level of respect that they may not have received elsewhere.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Are you still in touch with your mentor?
Yeah, there was actually an activity this morning where I sent that person a text.
Oh, that yeah, right.
Yeah. We all gratitude text.
We were asked to send text messages to people who have been impactful or, you know, somehow important in our lives, and it sounds like you said.
Absolutely, it was just thanks, Annalisa. I appreciate you. Yeah, she did. She just said thanks. I'm at a IEI conference with other fellow superintendents and colleagues, and I don't think I would be here without your mentorship. And she just put a heart. Thank you. I'll talk to you later today.
You guys are in touch.
Yeah.
How do you see your role as superintendent in this environment? You know, for other staff, like how do you make sure you're there for them and they feel valued and seen?
Yeah, same. During about that same time, I learned by watching my mentor not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. And the biggest walk they did was actually just being there face to face and having conversations one-on-one, not just facilitating things on the phone. Obviously, those things come up now and then, but really just being a part of the day-to-day. And I'm very present. I like to be in the same spaces to witness the same things and observe and do the same thing. And I also don't mind still getting in the trenches. I still support focus groups and meeting with students to get cultural feedback and seeing how we can make our program better by just simply asking them, what can we do to help you? You know, but the big thing is just being human.
Yeah.
You know, I lead with humanity check first at all times, just understanding that, you know, we all have lives and different pushes and pulls, and we got to honor those things and take care of ourselves before we can address taking care of someone else.
Yeah. The thing I'm thinking about too is making sure that that my people know that it's okay not to be okay, like we talked about yesterday. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, you can't be perfect and on the top of the pedestal all the time, you know, and it's okay to do those things. You know, one of the big things I encourage any new staff to do when they come in is to make mistakes. As I said, I want you to make mistakes because that's how you're going to learn, you know, and do not have that fear of repercussion. A lot of times, I mean, as I was growing up as a teacher, you know, coming up, and obviously you still have more punitive aspects of the career and in the field of like, oh my goodness, I missed a period here because a parent had my attention, right? And I missed a duty or role responsibility. And, you know, that would be met with maybe some sort of real punitive consequence. But nowadays, you know, you have to give some grace because, all right, you're meeting with someone that needed you at that moment. You know?
Yeah, right. So, you know, traditional public school districts are judged on things like assessment scores and graduation rates. And how do you all define success pathways?
Yeah, really making sure that students are getting what they need to get to the next level of development that they want to pursue. And obviously it comes with the traditional standard metrics, 1-year grad rate, attendance growth, right? Early college and career metrics of applications, et cetera, et cetera. I really try to boil it down to making sure that students have a success plan. In Chicago Public Schools, we have to have a Learn, Plan, Succeed plan in place. So there's a bunch of criteria points, not just through the senior year, but through their whole entire catalog of 9 through 12, so to speak, that they have to fulfill. And when someone has a complete plan by the time they graduate, it feels really good knowing that you guided them along that process, because if they've done all of those things, the likelihood of them still following through is really high. Yeah. And then we still have alumni outreach coordinators, and it's really fulfilling to get a story a year or two later after they've left our program and say, hey, you guys changed my life. Consequently, we have some that come back for graduation and speak to our students and come to our campuses and visit and say the difference that Pathways has made for them when they didn't feel like they had anywhere else to go.
So you have an active alumni program and outreach?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's a big item for us because we want to make sure that students are still staying in touch. We've also hired students that have graduated from our program.
you probably get some kids referred to you who are not really sure that they're going to graduate, right?
Absolutely.
And you're offering a full diploma of the whole thing, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And the benefit to the district during that time is that their diploma then will still read Chicago Public Schools and their home zoning high school that they transferred from.
Right. So it helps,
helps
CPS with their metrics as well in their graduation.
It's a bit of a win-win.
That's great.
100%.
Good. You're doing great work.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. Thanks for chatting with me.
It's an honor.
Appreciate
really
it.
Glad to be a part of it.
Glad to have you. Keep coming back.
All right, thanks, Doug.
All right, good.
Absolutely,
Thanks.
Man.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for listening. Subscribe and follow IEI for more stories at ieik12.com/podcast.